Okay, welcome. In this video, Module 6, we're going to do some practice with fstream. So I'm going to download a couple of files, fstream.cpp. I'm also going to download fstream2.cpp, and I'm going to download the input file. All right, so let's get started with Visual Studio. Going to create my practice project. So I'm going to launch a solution that's already been working called test. I've been practicing with it and using this solution. So if you've created a valid solution in Visual Studio, you can relaunch it. You also can rename your source code. So if I want to rename my source code, I could call this practice. So these are just some things that you can do. You can rename your source code and it does not affect your project. All right, so now I'm going to take this code that I just downloaded and copy and paste it in here. And then we can take a look at it. So this code is going to connect to an input file called inputdata.txt. I have to include fstream. I have declared two objects. Class ifstream is part of fstream, and I've declared an object called in. Class ofstream, I've declared an object called out. Ifstream is for reading from files, and ofstream is for taking a stream of data and putting it out to a file. Then I'm going to use some member functions. I can use this member function called open. So once I declare an object, I can hit the dot operator and have member functions available to me. So I'm going to use the dot operator to open a file called inputdata.txt. If it does not open, it will display a message. If it does open, then I'm going to open an output file called outputdata.txt and put the numbers into it. So let's see what happens. All right, so I'm not sure what happened. It should have given me a message that oh, you know why? Because I was practicing this last night and this project is on my desktop and there is an input data file here. So let's delete that and try again. So now it says the file did not open correctly. The reason that the file did not open correctly is because there is no input file in the directory. So I can go to the directory and I can launch Notepad, or I could take the input file that I downloaded and move it there, but I think I'm just going to create an input file. So I just launch Notepad, put some numbers in there, and save this in the same directory as my source code. So this is the directory where my source code is, and call this input data and save it there. So these numbers are here, so it should take 1, 2, 3, 4, add them together and put that sum into and create an output file and put that sum there. So let's see what happens. All right, so I didn't get the message that it was unable to find the file, so I can go here into that directory. And you'll notice that the output file has the sum of the four numbers is 10 into the output file. So it's working. So let's just go through the code and review it a little bit. So starting at the top, I have my fstream library that I need to include. I have class ifstream. I've declared an object of type ifstream, which gives me access to all of the member functions that are part of that class. I also have declared an object called out, which is a member of ofstream. Some of the member functions I'm using here is open. I'm using open to open my input file. I don't need to put a path or anything as long as I put the input file in the same directory as my source code. I'm using a function called fail. This function, if it does not find the input file, it will let me know, and then it will let me know that it didn't open correctly. So it just prints a message, and if it opens correctly, then I'm using my other object to open a file called output data, adding the numbers together, and then I'm using a member function called close to close my files. All right, so let's open the other source code. So the other one is in my downloads here, fstream number 2. So this also works with an input file called inputdata.txt. So there's only a couple of differences here. Number one, I put the using namespace inside of the main function, but you can put it here or you can put it globally above your main function. It doesn't matter, but if you are using it in multiple functions in your program, then it's better to put it global so you don't have to put that that statement inside multiple times. But if you are using different namespaces, which we will learn about later in the semester, then sometimes you can't put it globally because each function might have its own namespaces. So another thing here, I instead of just printing a message that it didn't open, it's actually going to exit the program. So in order to use this exit function, this exit function is part of the C standard library. So I'm going to, instead of allowing it to read from the file, it's going to tell me that it did not, and just give me a message. It's going to exit and my program will end. So let's test that out. So what I need to do is go into my project, and I need to rename this file so that it won't find it. So let's just rename it. So it's trying to open inputdata.txt and it should not find it. So let's test it and see what happens. And I have an error here. I'm not sure why I have an error, so let's figure that out. Okay, I'm not sure why I have an error there, but I'm going to, I'm not sure. So let's, maybe we'll move this up here and try again. All right, so anyway, it was unable to understand what about CN, so now let's try again. All right, the input file did not open correctly. So since the input file did not open correctly, there's no reason to try to create an output file. So now let's go back in my project and get the file to open correctly. And then we'll talk about the second half of this. So if the file does open correctly, it should read in the first numbers from the file into the variables num1, num2, num3, and num4. Then here I am using a character array to declare a file name, at least size 16, and I'm asking and getting the file name from the user. So I have a file in my project called output data. So what I have the option to do here is to open that file called output data if it does exist, and it will leave whatever is in that file and add more information to the end of that file. So let's see what's in that file. So that file already has a sentence with a sum in it. So if I were to put in that same file name, it will add to it. So what was the file? Output data.txt. So if I spelled it correctly, it should find that file and add more information to it. And what I'm really hoping is that while you guys are watching this, see, there it is, it added it. And if I wanted, I could change this, the sum of 3 numbers, and change the code a little bit. And I'm going to change my input file to put something different into it. So these are the kind of things that I'm really hoping that you guys will try to do. Like put the code in there and then have some ideas and try things and see what happens. And so I changed it. So the sum's going to be very different and the sentence is going to be very different. So now let's build it. And output data.txt. So now we can navigate to that file. So what I did is I went in here, I went to the input file and changed the number. So now it should add this number plus this and put that sum in there. And it also says the sum of 3 numbers because I changed the sentence right here. So what I encourage you to do is to take these code examples and put them in your compiler and try different things and see what happens, because there's usually when I'm working with this, and I'm even now that even after I've been teaching all these years, sometimes I just am curious and I wonder what's going to happen. And so you have these samples here that are working examples and you can try different things.